Hello, everybody, and welcome to the AI Radio Room. My name is Matty Biniak. I'm the community manager at Magnet AI, and I'm joined today with Mark Rydon from Aethir.
For having me. Great to be here.
Thank you very much. So do you want to tell us a little bit more about what Aethir does, maybe?
Sure. Well, just to get everyone up to speed, my name's Mark. I'm the co-founder here at Aethir. At Aethir, we build decentralized enterprise-grade GPU infrastructure for AI and gaming companies. What makes us maybe different to other DeepIns that you've seen in the space is 100% of the infrastructure that's committed to Aethir is enterprise-grade. Right, we have roughly 43,000 GPUs all over the world, all contributing their compute to Aethir's network, and 100% of them are enterprise suitable. They're sitting in data centers or connected to enterprise-grade network infrastructure. They're effectively 100% ready to serve the biggest enterprise customers out there. I think a challenge that DeepIns, particularly in the compute space, have faced in the past is that it's quite difficult to package consumer-grade compute into something that enterprise customers want to buy. You struggle to convince enterprise customers that this GPU within your network won't be switched off because that person just doesn't like the RGB on their PC at night, or this GPU in this home isn't going to have its bandwidth throttled because that family is watching Netflix at night, right? Traditionally, compute networks, particularly in the DeepIn space, have struggled to meet the performance and quality and uptime requirements that are necessary for big enterprise compute buyers. And that's really the main difference, right? Aethir, like I mentioned, we don't aggregate consumer compute, 100% enterprise focused, 100% synergy between the compute we have in our network and the demand from the biggest AI and gaming companies in the world. It's a pretty cool space to be where we have a huge amount of kind of what I call real business, right? Where the majority of our customers are Web 2 customers.
So clearly you might think there's a pressing need for AI, like blockchain infrastructure within AI. Is that correct?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So why Web3, and what sort of advantages does it offer in comparison to like Web 2 solutions that we have today?
If you're looking at addressing this kind of global compute scarcity, that's really what Aethir does. We look at bringing more compute into the market, and the way that we've chosen to address that challenge is by aggregating underutilized compute. People forget often that a large portion of compute is allocated or purchased by companies that are not AWS or GCP or Microsoft Azure, right? And these companies, when they purchase that compute, it sits in their data centers, they've rented space, they rent bandwidth and power, and it's extremely expensive. This type of compute is more expensive than any compute essentially ever been before. And it's arguably more important than any compute has ever been before. But they don't have the internal infrastructure, for example, if they miscalculate, right? If they forecast incorrectly, if production is delayed, right? They don't have the ability to off-sell that compute. They don't have, this quasi AWS framework structured into their network that allows them to say, hey, someone else, would you like to purchase compute from me? I have too much. That doesn't exist. They don't have the BD teams, they don't have the sales teams. They're not set up for it. Right? So what we realized at Aethir was that if we could create this infrastructure that made it really, really easy, really simple, really kind of painless for these companies to connect underutilized compute and then expose it to the broader market, that would kind of resurface this lost capacity that exists that's pretty significant. And then as a network, we have all of these kind of unit economic advantages and scalability advantages that exist as a result of kind of building a network on top of infrastructure that we don't have to own. Now, when you think about what it takes to build that network, you need essentially the blockchain, right? You need the ability to create a transparent, trustless ledger, right? Where people can connect their compute and be confident that what they're recording, right? The work that they're doing is recorded in a way that is safe, guaranteed, not going to be tampered with, right? And then on top of that, they want to be able to guarantee that they're going to be rewarded for their work. If you have someone do work in a new country, for example, you haven't done business with before, right? In Web 2, it might be quite difficult for you to pay that person. Maybe you need to set up some sort of legal entity in the region. Maybe you have to have that currency. Maybe you have to structure some sort of contract around paying this new entity in this new region. Well, within the blockchain, everything's kind of done on smart contract, right?
Sure.
They can immediately do that work, have that work recognized on the blockchain, have a smart contract automatically kind of deployed, and then they receive, the Aethir token or stablecoin or whatever you have within your network instantly.
Yeah.
That's a fully scalable solution to that problem. Doesn't matter how many nodes we have standing up at any one time. Doesn't matter how many GPUs are onboarding into our network. It's not limited by our ability to approve. It's not limited by our ability to write a contract or to pay. It's really just a totally and incredibly scalable solution to a really interesting problem. And you can only really do that in Web3.
Sure.
Right? If you tried to replicate in that Web2, it would be a total disaster. Yeah. It's a very cool solution to a very kind of challenging issue, and 100% unlocked by the blockchain.
Yeah. So you spoke a little bit about GPU demands increasing purely because of AI, right? You spoke a bit about it on the panel as well. It was really insightful. So I'd like to know specifically what Aethir does to kind of bridge the gap between global supply and obviously global demand.
We have a look at what the compute ecosystem is out there in the broader world. There's only so many different places you can access compute. There's not enough. And as a result of that, market conditions are pretty challenging for small to medium-sized businesses, for small to medium-sized enterprises, for startups, right? Pretty challenging to get access to this compute. It's very expensive. The contract terms are quite predatory at times. And that's because there's this, pretty constrained bottleneck and a pretty limited amount of compute, particularly through what you would call like traditional channels, right? Hyperscalers. At Aethir, by aggregating and resurfacing this kind of new compute and doing it in what we kind of consider a builder-friendly way, we can kind of access and give access to compute in such a way that it's more cost-effective. The terms that we offer within our network are far more friendly, much lower upfront costs, if any, much shorter contract terms, if not kind of just month by month or even kind of shorter. Free periods where you can access and kind of test the infrastructure before you kind of make full-on commitment. So there's lots of we're doing to make this a better place for builders. And I think that's kind of critical, not just if you want to, it's not just about addressing kind of this supply issue. It's also about who has access to that supply. And I think we're really making an effort to make the compute within our network more accessible to kind of smaller independent builders in particular.
Okay. So alongside all this hard work that you're doing at Aethir, there's obviously some talk. We've been hearing a lot about Aethir Edge, right? So could you maybe explain to the viewers what Aethir Edge is and what your aim is with Aethir Edge?
So I mentioned before that Aethir is 100% enterprise grade. That means generally really big, really expensive GPUs sitting in data centers, right? And that's kind of a funny space for a DeepIn to be in, right? Because DeepIns are generally very participatory. People contribute something within a DeepIn. It's a great way to kind of earn rewards and feel like a valued partner with a network.
Yeah.
But when you put such a high barrier to entry like we have with this kind of enterprise compute layer, it excludes a large number of people from contributing to the network, right? So we took a look at that and we kind of addressed it in two ways. One was through our checker node sale, which I maybe won't touch on, but we did a massive checker node sale, sold around 72,000 checker nodes and raised around 42,000 ETH, biggest node sale in Web3 history. But we've also generated or built this really, really cool physical mining device, right, called Aethir Edge. It's about the size of like a Sonos speaker, right? It looks like a short, fat PS5. It's super cool. We partner with Qualcomm. It's got their latest AI chip inside it. And pretty much what you do is you purchase one of these, right? You can check it out at myedge.io. You purchase one and you just plug it into power at your house. It connects to your network and it sits in your home and it operates as an enterprise grade node within Aethir's network, an enterprise grade compute node, right? And actually allows our network to autonomously kind of push enterprise grade workloads out to those nodes. And if you're the owner of the node, right, obviously you're getting rewarded for doing that work, right? So actually 23% of all of Aethir's tokens are allocated to the Aethir Edge. So it's incredibly cool. I think it's never been done before.
No.
You have now, through the Aethir Edge ecosystem, this kind of homogenized layer of edge compute, right? In general, edge compute or consumer compute is really difficult to kind of monetize. It's just this hodgepodge of kind of random different pieces of equipment out there. But as soon as you can kind of standardize it in some way, and that's what we're doing with the Edge and this really cool chip from Qualcomm, as soon as you can standardize it, you can start to sell it. You can
Sure.
package it, and it becomes useful.
Okay.
And that's what the Aethir Edge is. It's this node that anyone can buy,
Yeah.
and then be a participant in this AI ecosystem that normally you'd need to spend $300,000 on an H100.
You don't actually need to have your own computing power to use this at home then?
No, it's fully standalone, totally like what you might call passive. Just plug it in, connect it to your network, forget about it.
Okay.
Right? There's a really cool app you can download. App tracks like your earnings and like what tokens are being distributed and what work's happening, but you don't need to do a thing. And we've got people in our community with like 100 set up in their home, and they're having a great time.
That's quite unique. I think it's good that you've made it so accessible to your users as well. Yeah, brilliant stuff. We look forward to hearing a little bit more about what you'll be doing in the future. Have you got anything planned while you're at Brussels though?
A lot of events, a lot of panels, a lot of talks. Doing a speak on the main stage. A little bit more of a gaming flavor to that talk. So
Right.
we obviously do a lot in AI, but we have a huge amount of kind of gaming compute. So I'm excited to kind of share more about the gaming side with people as well.
Okay, well, wish you the best of luck on that talk then.
Thanks,
and thanks very much for joining us today. Thanks to everyone at home for joining us as well. We look forward to seeing you very soon on another episode of the Radio Room. Thanks again.
Thank you.